Get this fucking game ready, and then I'm going to get in it. Player grades. It's going to be a live one for all you guys that are watching this one back. Live player grades for the Philadelphia Eagles versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a good time. Not having a good time. We'll jump into it, though. Oh, it's frustrating. It would have been a perfect scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles to go 2-0 and then get Carson Wentz back, but yeah, let me just fix this real quick. The fuck, it's not available in this mode. Can't just let the computers play? Fuck! Alright, I guess we're playing this game as I talk about the Eagles player grades. Alright, so how about this? How about the Bucs actually being good? You know? The Saints were an NFC favorite. Bucs stomped them. Well, not stomped them, but Bucs beat them. Eagles NFC favorite. Bucs beat them. We'll get into why I think Philly lost this game. But maybe at the end of the day, and maybe first and foremost, the Bucs are good. And the Bucs are way better with Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, than they are with Jameis Winston. I think that's clear. Jameis Winston just lost his starting quarterback job. That's what happened. Yeah, Philly lost 21-27. Not even that close. The scoreline makes it look a little bit closer than what it is. Tampa Bay controlled that game, and, you know, Philly just didn't play good enough defensively. This defense that, you know, can and should be top 3, if not the best defense in the league. I don't know what their game plan was, man. They put the big slow corner in Jalen Mills, who's not a corner, he's a safety. They put him on the shifty fast guy in Deshaun Jackson. And then you take Ronald Darby, who's one of the fastest defensive backs in football, and you put him on Mike Evans. Does not make sense at all. Jim Schwartz is the reason why we lost this game. Jim Schwartz's game plan is, like, it feels the exact same as someone that didn't watch the Bucs Week 1 game against New Orleans. Like, the Bucs did the same shit. Just deep ball against the Saints. They just did the exact same thing, rinse and repeat against the Eagles, and it worked again. It's like Jim Schwartz is like, oh, shit. You know what? At halftime, we make these adjustments because this is how the Tampa Bay Bucs were playing, because we clearly made adjustments at halftime. Defense was much better in the second half. But should have had been adjustments. The adjustments should have been made during the week because they did the exact same shit they did against the Saints. So I'll say right now, the biggest reason why Philly lost this game was Jim Schwartz's game plan. Like, how many times, like, on Deshaun Jackson, there was like a third down. The third down that the Bucs got to pretty much kill off all the clock, so Philly had like 2 plays left to end the game. Deshaun Jackson, it was 3rd and 7, and because Jalen Mills is so slow, and because Jalen Mills is so susceptible to the double move, he was playing like 12 yards off Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson had a 12-yard cushion to gain 7 yards on third down. Whereas you put someone like Darby, I'll take Ronald Darby's chances keeping up with the speed and athleticism of Deshaun Jackson off the line. I haven't seen a defensive game called that bad since Billy Davis was Philadelphia's defensive coordinator. But at the end of the day, Tampa deserved to win the game. If Philly won that game, I'd be still sitting here saying the Bucs deserved to win that game. It's a game of the Bucs played the more complete game. The Bucs dominate the Eagles in the first half. And, I mean, you know, it is, you know, a valid excuse to say, well, how many games are you realistically going to expect the Philadelphia Eagles to win when they're missing Carson Wentz? We were missing Darren Sproles. We were missing Alshon Jeffrey. We were missing Jason Peters. We were missing Jay Ajayi for 2/3 of that game. And then Mike Wallace went out. So Philly was down their starting quarterback, their starting running back, their running back 2, maybe? I don't know, man. Darren Sproles got more goddamn snaps than Corey Clement did against Atlanta. And then we're missing wide receiver 1 and Alshon. We're missing outside wide receiver. We'll call him wide receiver 2 because you don't call the slot guy, which is Aguilar, your wide receiver 2. Mike Wallace is the other outside guy. Both those guys were gone. And then Jason Peters got hurt on like the first drive of the game. So how can we expect that offense to pick up the slack from the defense? This game all falls on the fact that our defense has to be the epitome. It has to be the success of this team until Carson Wentz gets back. And hell, probably even next week. If Wentz does play next week against the Colts, there's a chance he'll be rusty. There's a chance that defense is going to need to do a job against Andrew Luck. And I think the Colts actually won this week too. So they're coming off a win. They got a little bit of momentum. But, I mean, when you look at it at its core, We almost won this game. Philadelphia almost completed the comeback with all of those injuries. We got Jay Ajayi back, and look what happened. We had Jay Ajayi back for the last, 8 minutes of the fourth quarter, and look what happened. The comeback came on. So there's just so many injuries you can't overcome. It's one of those things people were on my Twitter saying, oh my God, you're complaining. But I look at their teams, and I was like, if your team, there's no team in the league. That's why Philly can't do it. There is no team in the league that can be missing all of their starters in those positions and win a game. Patriots couldn't. None of those teams. There's not one team. I can't even think of a team that might be able to do it. There's not one team that could be down the players Philly is missing and even remain that competitive in a game. So from that standpoint, that's probably the positive we can take, is that even with all those injuries, his offense, Doug Pearson's play calling, because that's the only thing that's not hurt right now. Doug Pearson's play calling still made this game close in the second half. But yeah, let's do some player gauge real quick. I got to get going. I got to go put my kid down to bed. So looking at the Eagles, Nick Foles, 36 of 49, 49 passing attempts, 337 yards and a touchdown. He got sacked 3 times. Foles didn't really make any bad throws, I guess. I was really, really annoyed. Basically, Philly got the ball with 30 seconds left, and the first pass was a slant across the middle to Nelson Aguilar with no timeouts left. It was pretty much like, what the fuck was that about? But, we had no balance because Jay Ajayi got hurt. When Jay Ajayi got hurt, we abandoned the run. It's that Andy Reid mentality that at Doug's core still will always flare up a little bit at times. And, I still think we should have kept feeding Corey Clement. Corey Clement averaged 5 yards a carry, 6 carries, 30 yards, and he had a touchdown. And the reason why they weren't running, I know 100% why. He'll probably say in the press conference. Because he was our punt returner. Because Darren Sproles is out. You could just pile it on. Because Darren Sproles was hurt. You might think, oh, Darren Sproles, he's just part of that three-headed running back attack. But because he was hurt, that means we had to have Corey Clement be our primary punt returner, primary return man in general. So that means it limited how many actual snaps we could give Corey Clement. So it was one of those things, of course, you might say on paper that Darren Sproles' injury doesn't really mean much, right? Because they still have 3 other running backs. But because he went down to his next man up on special teams, that's probably why we couldn't establish a run or run Corey Clement, who's having a lot of success as much as we wanted, as I'm literally half-assed playing this game. The game's just so I can stream. But I'll give Nick Foles, I don't know, C+. He didn't make any wow. He made that one wow throw to Nelson Aguilar. That was actually, fuck that. That pass to Nelson Aguilar to get the touchdown to make it a one-score game. That was beautiful. So I'm giving Nick Foles a B-. Running backs, they had limited carries. Ajayi looked good. Corey Clement looked good when we used him, but it's just not enough touches there. We abandoned the run because we're playing from behind. It made sense. The clock was our enemy. So I'll give the running back C+. Wide receivers, Zach Ertz, 11 receptions for 94 yards. Nelson Aguilar, 9 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Corey Clement, 5 catches, 55 yards. Literally the only 3 talented skill position players that we had on the team had good games. So I guess you could say, what would have happened if we had, Nelson, we had all those guys out there. If we had Alshon Jeffrey, if we had Dallas Goedert actually getting snaps. I don't know what the fuck was going on there, but receivers did good. I didn't see any bad drops. The only thing that was frustrating was Kamar Aiken and this Perkins guy kept getting targeted. But so the receivers, the receivers came to play. Jake Elliott missed a 42-yard field goal, which, in the grand scheme of things, probably didn't matter a whole lot. We still would have came up short, but man, I don't know what you do with Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott, if he's going to continue to struggle with those short-range kicks, maybe we just going to accept that our Super Bowl run, he was a one-year wonder for us. He can make the big kicks, but if he can't make the short kicks, it's no different than a kicker that's automatic from the short range and can't hit anything over 50 yards. There's a point in time where we have to accept the limitations of a player and just say, man, we need to bring in competition. We need to do something because it's an issue. It's not just like he's a rookie. He's a young kicker. Jake Elliott's only in his second year. He's got to get better. We're pretty much, that's why we go for it on 4th down. People talk about Philly, oh, Doug Pearson, he's a big roller, likes going it on whatever. It's because our field goal kicker can't make anything under 50 yards. So, I'm a little frustrated with that kicking game. We have, what else we got here? Defense, everyone on the defense. Everyone not named Fletcher Cox on the defensive side of the ball is getting an F. No one came to play. Jenkins did all right, but he got abused on a bunch of plays. Darby got an interception. He got abused on a bunch of plays. Hicks was non-existent. Jalen Mills was horrendous. Rodney McLeod, average. Did Brandon Graham, defensive end that wants what? How much? He wants a big contract still. He's 30-something. But Brandon Graham wants this big. Did he do anything? I don't care what you could say. I can already came on admit that the Bucs deserve that game. Maybe the Bucs are good. That Bucs offensive line should not have shut down our defensive ends like they did. And if Brandon Graham, Mr. I want this big old contract, if you're good enough to start, I mean, people are saying on Twitter maybe he has a leg injury still, or he's still fighting that. If you're good enough to start, you should be able to just at least get your own, get you some against DeMar Dotson. And DeMar Dotson shut down Brandon Graham. So everyone not named Fletcher Cox on that defense is getting F. That was the worst defensive effort I've seen. They picked it up in the second half. I don't know how much I can put that on Jim Schwartz and the game plan, because maybe they're just following a bad game plan from the start. I mean, I don't think it was Jalen Mills saying, hey, put me on Deshaun Jackson and not on Mike Evans. Or it was Darby saying, hey, put me on Mike Evans and not Deshaun Jackson, because that was a turning point in this game. There's no way in hell. Put it this way, if Ronald Darby is covering Deshaun Jackson, that 75-yard touchdown does not happen. It'd be a 40, 50-yard gain, but Darby does not get outrun by Deshaun Jackson. He's able to make up that speed. Mills, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure I can run a straight line faster than Jalen Mills. That's what happens, man. It's the same old Jalen Mills. He's a safety playing cornerback. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. Until, maybe McLeod gets cut next year and we can move Mills back to safety, we're going to have to stick with that because Jim Schwartz ride and dies. There's two guys on this defense, I think. Well, Bradham's really good for the most part. We don't have to complain about it. But there's two guys on this defense that I think Jim Schwartz will ride and die by, if they're bad, if they're good, because they're his projects. They're like his teacher's pet, and that is Nigel Bradham and Jalen Mills. Jim Schwartz loves both their play styles, and he never says anything bad about them, even if they do something bad. And it's just a matter of the fact that's going to happen. So, shout out to the Bucs. The Bucs deserve to win this game, man. They executed. Fitzpatrick, 4 touchdowns, 400 yards, 275-plus yard catches. I mean, the run game, there you go, man. You saw the Philadelphia defense in the second half. They could not run the ball. Peyton Barber, 16 carries, 22 yards. He did shit all. They just, it was the secondary, man. 4 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown for Deshaun. 75-yard touchdown for O.J. Howard. Mike Evans, 10 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Godwin, 5 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. I feel like as much as on paper it's going to look like with all the injuries, Philly should have still beat up on this Bucs team. I expected a win in this game. But maybe we have to give credit to the Bucs wide receivers. I think it's still hard for me to imagine that the Bucs offensive line's good. It's still hard for me to imagine that Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to fucking flick on his Kurt Warner and be this good in his career. But it's not that hard to conceive that the Bucs wide receiver core, if they put it all together, they're one of the best in the league. You got Deshaun Jackson, who is, when healthy, a top 5 deep threat in the league. You have Mike Evans, who, when healthy and is on his game, is a debatable top 5 wide receiver in the league. I mean, 2 years ago, Mike Evans was pretty much a clear-cut 5. He was coming in at 5 when you're ranking the top wideouts. You have O.J. Howard, first-round draft pick at tight end. You have Chris Godwin. What is he, a second-round draft pick at wide receiver? You got Cam Brate, who I don't even think he did anything, but he's still a talented tight end that you have to assign a linebacker to or he'll beat you up. I mean, that's a tremendous wide receiving core. Philly, I mean, you could debatably say Godwin could be our wide receiver 1 on Philly right now. Under the outside guy, understanding that Iglor is a slot player. So I think that this game here is a combination of first and foremost, above all, the Bucs executed while our defensive game plan was dog shit. That's the number 1 point. Number 2 is that there's only so many injuries the Philadelphia Eagles can overcome until it's simply a fact of we do not have enough talent to overcompensate for a team not playing their best football, and that is our defense. If our defense is even average throughout the whole game, the defense had a worst first half maybe I've seen under Jim Schwartz. Second half, especially in the fourth quarter, they started to get back of the Philadelphia Eagles defense of old. But if that defense just played like an average game throughout, no really, really bad low points, I still don't know if this offense has enough skill position players to complete the comeback. But the fact that even with all of the injuries, Philly made this a 1-score game when we had a shot at the very end, that is still a positive that we can take from this game. And the last of 3 points is maybe at the end of the day, we just got to chuck it up to the fact that the Bucs have a scary good wide receiving core. Because, that explains Fitzmagic. is that, you just got really good players, and, they can make a quarterback look good. And what's kind of weird is that they had these players last year, and they didn't make Jameis Winston look good. I mean, Fitzpatrick played like the last couple of weeks, and I don't think he looked particularly strong either way, but, understanding that Jameis had a suspension, and Fitzpatrick last year just kind of came in as a starter. At least here, you kind of had the preseason knowing that he was going to be your starter, so he practiced and got those reps. Maybe this is if you're a Bucs fan. I mean, is there even Bucs fans? That's why there's another reason why this loss is not that bad, because I don't know any Bucs fans that can rub it in. But if you're a Bucs fan, I mean, maybe it's just like, has this receiving core been this good, and it's been being wasted by Jameis Winston? Like, if Jameis Winston's in this game, Philly wins. Philly wins if Jameis Winston would have had a dumb interception or two, and Philly would have won this game if he was playing. So, I mean, I guess shout out to Fitzpatrick. I mean, the Bucs just debatably beat the two best teams in the NFC. You probably have the Rams and Vikings can throw their name up in there, but 2-0 against. There's probably no Bucs fans in history that thought that the Bucs would be 2-0 over the New Orleans Saints and the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe the Saints because you're rivals and you think you might have a chance in that game, but yeah, man. First and foremost, I can't just be this fucking oblivious Eagle fan that says we lost this game because of injuries. I think that, obviously, I even think if you're a Bucs fan, if you saw how this game played out, especially the second half, if Philly had even just Carson Wentz and Alshon Jeffrey back and everyone else, all the other injuries are still there, Philly probably would have won. But I mean, that's fantasy world. That's all assumptions. What we do know at the end of the day is that the Bucs deserve this win. Philly's 1-1. I predicted Philly to lose against Atlanta and win versus Tampa Bay. So if I don't really pay a lot of attention to the results, we're 1-1 going into Week 3. You're getting Carson Wentz back. It looks like into the Colts game, which is again kind of what I've been saying. It's the same thing. 1-1. The record you are what your record is. And we're going into this Colts, hopefully with Carson Wentz, hopefully with Alshon Jeffrey. And now we're going to spin in to the last part of this video. Josh Gordon. Howie Roseman, give Carson Wentz the best welcome back gift you can possibly give him right now, and that is acquiring Josh Gordon. Mike Wallace has done nothing. Mike Wallace is our wide receiver too. He has done absolutely nothing. And now he's hurt. He got hurt on like the first snap of the game. He's 39 years old. If someone tweeted me this, and it's the truth, even with Alshon, if Nelson Aguilar goes down, we have no offense. We are that thin at wide receiver right now because Mac Hollins, who was a guy that I think was going to make a big leap this year, he's on IR. Alshon Jeffrey, will he be back next week? Will he still be out for a couple more weeks? We don't know. Right now, this offense, look at the box score. You want to look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense? It's the same offense we had last week. We have a tight end, we have a slot wide receiver, and we have, if we could have a healthy running back, we kind of have a running back that can catch in Corey Clement. We essentially are limited to your most explosive players are always your two outside wide receivers. Don't have that. So we have guys that are good at checkdowns. We have safety net players. We don't have any explosive players. And what is Josh Gordon? I'm on the train of what have you done for me lately? Josh Gordon hasn't even looked that great in his last. Like if you look at Josh Gordon's last 5 games or so that he played, has he looked like the Josh Gordon of 2013 that broke all those records and stuff? No, but you saw that touchdown that he caught over the dude's head in the Steelers game. It's still there. Josh Gordon would still be a massive improvement to the Philadelphia Eagles. And it comes down to, Josh Gordon is a player that has some issues. Obviously, it's well documented. He has substance abuse issues, which I guess he's over. But Josh Gordon, he definitely has an attitude problem. He has an attitude problem of he needs to be pushed. He needs to be pushed. And what about knowing this guy has this mentality, and he's in Cleveland. He has dog shit throwing to him at quarterback. And they lose. He's been at Cleveland for what, 6 years? They've won what, 4 games? Like that's a job. You don't have fun. There's no way in hell a player like Josh Gordon, who definitely you can tell if he likes to just have fun. You're not having fun in Cleveland. And now you got a hard ass, the John Dorsey era. This hard ass is trying to clearly cut Josh Gordon because he was late because he wanted to send a message. It's like, fuck, why are we having a hard... Like, I get you need to kind of change the culture there, but if you're Josh Gordon, you're like, okay, I've literally been the best player on this team when I've been able to play on the field, And now we got this hard ass that's trying to change things around, and we're still losing. We're still not winning games. I understand as someone that, I had a pretty big ego when I played football. I'd be like, man, fuck this. You're trying to tell me to do all this shit, and we don't even fucking win a game, so kiss my ass. You put him in a winning culture in Philadelphia. You put him with a very strong locker room. Got Michael Bennett. Yeah, jury's still out on that one. But you have Malcolm Jenkins. You have Chris Long. You got a lot of Jesus. There's a lot of Jesus on the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe Josh Gordon needs more God in his life. All three of our quarterbacks are pretty much pastor boys. Get him on that supplement. Have him go hunting with Carson Wentz down in North Dakota. It's and then looking forward. I mean, Philadelphia doesn't have a whole lot of salary cap. It makes the perfect sense. Philly was bringing in Corey Coleman, bringing in Brashad Perriman, all these flyers, these one-year busts, because that's how desperate we are at wide receiver. Now you look at a guy in Josh Gordon who's maybe even a cheaper contract than what those guys would have signed for, and he can get him on like whatever the fuck his next year's deal. If it works out, his contract next year's very cheap. We are a team for the next 2 years that's going to be gambling with trying to balance and make the books on one side, mask the books on the other side, trying to keep us barely on the salary cap. Getting a skill position player like Josh Gordon, potentially on fucking 2 discounted deals, it's a win-win for Philadelphia. And then just imagine that wide receiver core. Alshon Jeffrey, Josh Gordon, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz. I would take Nick Foles for the rest of the season if that was our wide receiver core. They'd make plays for him. So I don't think it's going to happen. I wouldn't say it's not going to happen because Howie Roseman loves making trades. I mean, Philly has shopped Chance Warmack around, so they could try to say, hey, well, you want a player? We can give you a Chance Warmack, who, well, Chance Warmack has been not anything special for the Philadelphia Eagles. He'd probably be like, he definitely would be a depth guard, probably the best depth guard they have on the Browns. And you always want more depth on the offensive line, and give him a pick. I would give Chance Warmack and a 6th-round pick. Philly's going to get a couple comp picks next year because of the Trey Burton and Patrick Robinson. So Philly's going to have like 2 extra 5th rounds and stuff like that next season. So, give them one of those comp picks. Give them something like that, or give them our pick because we know we're getting a comp pick. I think that everything makes sense for Philly to be in the hunt for Josh Gordon. But ultimately, man, I still feel like Philly's not, they're not going to pull the trigger, and they're going to I'll give them 25%. But we have heard years past Philadelphia in trade rumors with the Browns. Obviously, you had the Carson Wentz trade. There was a report that Philly was already trying to trade for Josh Gordon a couple years ago. Google that if you don't believe me. Philly was trying to trade for Josh Gordon. I think it was like 3 years ago. I think it was when Chip Kelly was still here. But Jeffrey, who was the guy that was still pulling the GM tags? It was Howie Roseman. So they have shown interest in Josh Gordon before. That's on record. And now that he's available, with the Philadelphia Eagles desperately needing wide receiver help, especially after these first two games. These first 2 games where our wide receivers, not named our tight end and our slot guy, have done nothing. I mean, now with this loss, Doug Peterson does not like losing. Doug Peterson could just say, fuck it, get me Josh Gordon. Go up to Howie Roseman's office before they leave from Tampa and say, give me this motherfucker. I want this guy. We can turn him around. We have the locker room. We have the culture to turn this shit around and get Josh Gordon to finally live up to his potential. So I would do it, man. I would pay upwards of a 5th-round pick. I don't think I'd go any higher than a 5th-rounder, but understanding that I think Philly might have 3 5th-round picks next season with comp picks, give me Josh Gordon. There's no 5th-round wide receiver that's going to be better than Josh Gordon. If you can take that, the clay, that is Josh Gordon, and mold him into a star. He's 27. So Josh Gordon is, realistically, about middle of his prime. So you can get Josh Gordon now on cheap. You get him next year on cheap. And, hey, if he plays himself into a contract, you look at that when it happens. Probably won't be able to re-sign him. So you basically look at it as you get Josh Gordon. It's a gamble, but it's a 5th-round pick. You have 3 of them. It's worth that gamble. And you get a cheap player until we have to pay Carson Wentz. It's a rental. And if the rental doesn't work out, you just throw it to the curb. We'll get fucking Mac Hollins back next year. We'll have Alshon Jeffrey back sooner than later. So, it's either don't go with Josh Gordon and have shit all at wide receiver until our guys are healthy, or go with Josh Gordon, cheap contract, maybe surplus requirement come season's end. But I think, it's too hard to assume. It's too hard to assume what's going on there. And I agree with the chat. Rasul Douglas, Jalen Mills is a safety. You could see with Jalen Mills, He's had a lot of big moments. Jalen Mills, he gets burned, yes. When you look at the negatives of Jalen Mills, gets burned, not fast enough, doesn't have makeup speed. But you look at the positive Jalen Mills, one of the better tackling corners in the league. He has had coverage ability. Man, there's fucking look at the playoff game against the Falcons. Down the stretch, Jalen Mills was fucking covering Julio Jones. I don't think there's a single safety in the league that can cover fucking big-time wide receivers like Jalen Mills has been able to. He's just not consistent enough to cover these big-time wide receivers outside. Jalen Mills at safety is very intriguing because Jalen Mills at safety might become one of the better cover safeties in the league. That's not, like, sometimes we see, Devin McCourty, guys like that, guys that are corners move to safety, even Malcolm Jenkins, and they're not that great at tackling. Mills is good at tackling. And in the fact that he's going to be able to be, a couple more yards off the line of scrimmage, he's faster than Rodney McLeod. I would do that, man, but it's not going to happen because we don't have that spot at safety, and there's no way in hell they take Jalen Mills out the field because he's Jim Schwartz's boy. But if I'm Philly, I'm benching Jalen Mills. I'm benching Jalen Mills, and I'm not outright benching him, but you put Rasul Douglas outside, you put him up with Darby, and you work Jalen Mills into the game. Because, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability, and either Jim Schwartz is going to take that accountability, or fucking maybe he'll throw Jalen Mills under the bus. That's how they'll take accountability. But accountability needs to be held from the Eagles' defensive side. And I think that, we got to fucking wait and see what happens. So that's it for player grades. Yeah. At the end of the day, hats off to the Bucs. Bucs deserve this win. I thought at this point in the season, going into week 3, knowing the injuries that we had, not knowing obviously that Jay and Jason Peters would get hurt in week 2, I said Philly's going to be 1-1 heading into that Colts game. Didn't know the order. Definitely didn't think the loss would be up against the Bucs. But 1-1 as we take on Indy. Indy's another matchup that, we'll just say this. With all the injuries Philadelphia has, I think I put this on Twitter. With all the injuries Philly has, I don't think us as Eagle fans can take any week as a gimme. You look at this Bucs game, even though they had the kind of game they did against the Saints, I still thought, we all bit in that they're the Bucs, man. This game was a win. This was a win for the Eagles. And going to the Colts, same kind of thing. Colts are a team, new head coach, changing defensive schemes. Maybe don't have the best of defensive lines, like controlling the line of scrimmage. But until, everyone's back and healthy, nothing's a win, man. And if you don't show up, you get bucked. You get Fitzmagicked. So, big week next week. Obviously, if they make the news official on Carson Wentz, I'll have a video talking about that. Or if fingers crossed, Philly makes that move for Josh Gordon before Monday, we'll definitely talk on that. I'll just probably talk when Josh Gordon signs with Everton, just bitch about why Philly didn't go get him. But that does it for me today, guys. I will be streaming tonight. Like I said, I got to go put my kid to bed, so I will be on my Twitch. My Twitch link is in right here. I'm on Twitch all the time now. We're actually closing in on 1,000 followers on Twitch, so definitely go check it out. But I would say probably in hour and a half, 2 hours of time, I'll be hopping on Twitch. We'll be playing some Madden. We'll be playing some Call of Duty Blackout. It's going to be a fun time. I'll see you guys over there. We can continue the conversation. I'm going to go put my kid to bed, watch a little bit of that Jags-Pats game, and it'll be good. So thanks, guys, for watching. Go Eagles. Fuck the Bucs. Fuck Jim Schwartz's defense.